Welcome to the Safe Money Retirement Show with certified financial fiduciary Tim Wood.
This is all about helping people. That is why I am so passionate about this, because it's literally getting up every day and helping people plan for the rest of their lives. Make a plan, because I promise you're going to sleep better.
Tim is a retirement and income planning expert, best-selling author, and the founder of SafeMoneyRetirement.com. Tim focuses on wealth management, retirement income, tax and long-term care planning, and so much more.
Let's sit down. Let's make sure we have got a holistic plan. We're not just looking at one thing.
And now, the Safe Money Retirement Show with Tim Wood.
And we welcome you in to another edition of the Safe Money Retirement Show. As always, we are here with Tim Wood. He's the founder, president, and certified financial fiduciary with Safe Money Retirement. My name's Kevin McAlpin, and of course, Tim and I thank you so much for joining us once again on the show. And we got a lot to get to coming up on the program here today. Coming up in just a few moments, we're going to tell you how many folks actually hit retirement with a $1 million nest egg. Spoiler alert, it's not nearly as much as you think. Plus, later on, we're going to tell you how to avoid going overboard when it comes to planning for your finances. We'll get to that and much, much more. But first things first, we say hello to the star of the show, the man of the hour, and of course, my good buddy, Tim Wood. Tim, always great to be with you, sir. Hope you're having a great day.
I am having a great day, man. Isn't it hard to believe it's the week before Halloween now? We were just talking offline. I know you mention all the time it would be fun for people to hear our banter right. offline, but it's hard to believe that, it's, Halloween, and then it's going to be Thanksgiving, and then Christmas, and then New Year's, and then it's tax time. Boom. It's crazy. So I love fall, my favorite time of year. There's been some great football games, and there's more coming. Great time of year.
It really is. You had the World Series, you've got baseball playoffs, you've got football in full swing, college and the pros, you've got basketball and hockey. Like, if you're a sports fan, if you're a couch potato, like I think me and you both are, isn't this?
Absolutely.
My thumb just gets tired because I'm just going one channel to the next, to the next. There's so many games on, I don't know what to follow first.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, I've got the upgrade with YouTube TV, so I can watch 4 games at once, and I literally just go back and forth. And then on football for NFL, I actually one of the screens is Red Zone, so I'm watching 3 other games and Red Zone, and can go back and forth. Yeah, my wife says I have a problem.
Exactly right. Well, listen, we appreciate all of our loyal listeners. We know there's a lot of you out there. You're not tuned in to hear us talk about Red Zone and our favorite football teams. You're here to hear us talk about retirement and your finances and putting that plan in place for your future. And if that sounds like you, if you've never worked with somebody before, maybe you've been saying, I'll work with an advisor, I'll get around to it. Well, look no further than Tim Wood and the team at Safe Money Retirement. 800-913-SAFE. Again, folks, that number is 800-913-7233. The website, again, is safemoneyretirement.com. That's safemoneyretirement.com. So Warren Buffett, obviously, we know the success he's had over the course of his career. He once said, do not save what is left after spending, but spend what is left after saving. So, Tim, in other words, pay yourself first by putting money in savings and investments before you do anything else. Now, that's great advice if you're younger, but how can we apply these principles to retirement so we can pay our future selves down the road first?
This is another one of the things, not this exactly, but something very similar to this is something that I cover with all of my clients. And I love that idea. Spend what is left after saving. And if you can do that, and if we can work out a plan to where that is the case, that is brilliant. That's a brilliant idea. But yeah, let's be real. In a lot of people's lives that are living paycheck to paycheck, that's not reality. But once you get into retirement, there are just a few things that you really need to focus on. And a lot of these also do line up with Warren Buffett's philosophies, because I'm kind of a student of his. He's brilliant, obviously. He knows what he's doing. So he's a good guy to really watch. One of the things, and it's something that I talk to all my clients about as well, is cutting unnecessary expenses. I have had some clients come in. I had one come in just a couple of weeks ago. Literally, she was a single woman. Her expenses were $7,500 a month.
Wow. Say that again.
Yeah, wow. Exactly. Wow. And I paused for a second, and I'm like, what are you doing? And she said, oh, no. That was kind of her response. I kind of not forced her, but I was like, you need to go back and you need to really look at your expenses and let's figure out, how are you spending this much and where's it going? And she literally found about $2,500 that was just garbage that she wasn't using or didn't need or whatever, and got it down to about $5,000 a month. Well, that's a more realistic, single person living by yourself kind of a money. Living on a leaner budget always is a good thing, but cutting those unnecessary expenses is going to be that very first step. Another cornerstone of what he says is to avoid consumer debt. Get out of debt as fast as you can. Now, people ask me all the time, well, should I pay off this really low rate mortgage or should I do something else? Well, here's what I always tell people. We need to look at what is that mortgage rate. If you've got a mortgage rate at 2% and we can put you into a product that guarantees you're going to make 5.5%, then it probably makes sense to stay where you are because you're making a 3.5% spread. So it really depends. Again, that's why we do an individual plan with each person to figure out exactly where you're at. But making sure that we can get you out of debt, because that compound interest, man, it goes for debt as well.
Yeah.
And even if it's only 7%, if you do that over and over and over and over, and it's 7%, brother, that can add up to tens of thousands of dollars over the course of years. So that's another big thing. And then the last thing that is something that I'm very passionate about, and Warren Buffett is as well, and that's investing in yourself. That's making sure that you're not just investing in your house and you're not just investing in the monetary things, but that you're investing in yourself. And that can be professionally, it can be personally, it can be, I've needed to go to therapy for such and such my whole life and I've never done it. Okay, well, now's a good time, and it could be trips. It could be whatever you want to do to invest in yourself, but that's a really important piece. And those are some of the things I think people kind of overlook and don't think about. All most people think about is financial, which is big. It's huge. And obviously that's what I work with people on, but they need to think about these other things as well, trying to get your expenses down, try to make sure that we can get you out of debt, but do it smartly. And then to make sure that you continue to invest in yourself in one way or another.
Obviously, we know Buffett talks a lot about discipline when it comes to your finances, but there's that sort of that fine line between staying disciplined without feeling like you're being restricted, right? Without feeling like there's a governor on your car as well. How do you sort of find that healthy balance between the two for your clients?
Yeah, y'all have heard me use this term before: under-living retirement and over-living retirement. Make a plan. That's it. I mean, like I always say, that's it. Let's make a plan. Now, do we need to change that plan from time to time? Yes. That's why we do annual reviews. We can change the plan every single year or even less than that. But we need to have a plan so we know exactly what we're going to do and how we're going to do it. And if and when this happens, because again, like you said last week, it's not if something is going to happen, it's when. Because something's going to happen. I mean, we're not all living forever. Something's going to happen. Someone's going to get sick. Someone's going to be in the hospital. Someone's going to pass away. Something's going to happen. What's your plan going to be, and how is that going to impact you financially and in all these other areas?
Obviously, these are things you don't want to try to navigate on your own. That's why Tim Wood and the team at Safe Money Retirement is here to help. Pick up the phone. Give him a call today. We have teammates standing by to get you on his calendar. 800-913-SAFE. Again, that number is 800-913-7233. Or you can always contact Tim on the website. It's safemoneyretirement.com. Again, it's safemoneyretirement.com.
It's now time for our Safe Money Story of the Week. Visit safemoneystories.com to view more.
All right, so for today's Safe Money Story of the Week, I kind of want to tie into what we were just talking about. So again, I said I'm kind of a fan of Warren Buffett, and in my book, I actually have one of Warren's most popular quotes, and it is, rule number 1, never lose money. Rule number 2, don't forget rule number 1. So it's one of his biggest things is don't lose money. I mean, that's, and it makes sense, right? And it especially makes sense as you get older and get into retirement because of that market math. If you lose 30% in the market, you got to have a 43% gain just to get back to where you were. So for this week's story, we'll just call him Jim and his wife, Terry, that came into the office. This was probably about a month or so ago, and they had a substantial amount amount. We're talking 7 figures in brokerage accounts, but they were all still exposed to market risk. So what he wanted to do was make sure that he could follow Warren Buffett's rule number 1 and 2. Want to still make some money, want to still make some good gains, still have the potential to make, a substantial amount in the market. It's not going to be if, it's when. Sooner or later, the market's going to go down. I mean, what goes up comes down. It's going to happen. When that happens, he doesn't have to worry about losing anything. So that was his really big concern because, yes, they had built this huge nest egg, but that was it. I mean, that's it. No matter how much it is. If you've got 50,000 saved and that's all you got, well, it's important. If you've got 5 million saved and that's all you've got, it's important. So what we were able to do for them, and we didn't take all of it. He didn't want to move all of it. He still wanted to be able to what he called, quote unquote, play in the market. Okay, great. Well, let's leave some in there so you can play. Knock yourself out. Get some penny stocks. Buy this, buy that. Try these funds, whatever you want to do. But what you've got to have is what I told him, Jim, what you've got to have for retirement and you can't afford to lose. We moved that into a plan for him that has no fees ever, unless he withdraws more than he's allowed to. But in this plan, he was allowed to withdraw 10% per year with no fees or penalties. Shouldn't ever need more than that because his income's already taken care of. He was good on income. That's why we never even talked about income with him. We got him into a plan with no fees, no chances for losses ever. His worst case scenario in this plan, if he went all in the market and the market goes down, his worst case scenario is 0. There's no way he can ever lose any. And he's still got a good chance to grow. And what he liked about this plan so much is the annual reallocation. So every single year on his anniversary date in this plan, he's able to get in there and choose how he wants his money to grow for this next year. And it doesn't have to be 100% one thing or the other. And the choices are fixed, and maybe the S&P and maybe a Morgan Stanley. Each plan has its own individual indexes and things, but he's got a bunch of different options, and every year he can choose. And for example, this year he's like, well, I'm kind of concerned because the market's way up and in this bubble. So he actually went half of his money in the fixed, and then the other half he split between different indexes. It's now set for the year. He knows half of his money is going to grow at a fixed rate. The other half is going to be based on what happens in the market. And then a year from now, we can reallocate again. They got the money that he wanted to protect, and it was a lot, out of that market, out of the market risk, out of the regular brokerage account. We got him into a fixed plan, no fees, no chance of losses. His wife was so relieved. Kevin, his wife literally she didn't actually cry, but she was getting tears welling up as she heard, we're not ever going to have to worry about losing this money, because I think she actually had fear and apprehension and anxiety is the word I'm thinking of about a market crash. And I think just knowing that, you could almost see her just go, oh, after we got this done. It was awesome. So they left happy. They know that now they don't ever have to worry about that chunk being lost. It's still going to have a good chance for growth. You still have access to 10% and actually access to even more than that if you got in a long-term care or a terminal illness situation. So it's a great plan for them. They left totally happy. They're happy with their plan.
If you find yourself in a similar situation, remember, folks, retirement planning is not something you want to try to navigate by going to Google or YouTube. That's why you want to utilize the services of Tim Wood with Safe Money Retirement. And we do have teammates standing by. If you'd like to schedule that initial conversation, 800-913-SAFE. Again, folks, that number is 800-913-7233. The website, once again, is safemoneyretirement.com. That's safemoneyretirement.com. All right, we have to squeeze in a quick break, but don't go anywhere. We have much more of this week's edition of the Safe Money Retirement Show with Tim Wood coming up right after this.
Hi, it's Glenn Beck. You've heard me talk about Tim Wood, certified financial fiduciary and owner of Safe Money Retirement for a while now. But what I haven't told you is that he's also a retirement income certified professional. Now, why should you care? Well, maybe you have pre-tax and after-tax retirement accounts, and you need to know how that's going to work. Or maybe you still don't have enough guaranteed lifetime income to cover your monthly bills. Or maybe your entire savings is still exposed to risk. Listen, I met Tim personally, and I can tell you that his team can help you. I want you to write this down, safemoneyretirement.com/Beck. or call 800-913-SAFE to schedule a no-obligation free 15-minute discovery call with Tim. You know I don't trust just anyone, so do your own homework on Tim Wood at safemoneyretirement.com/Beck and request a copy of his best-selling book. 800-913-SAFE. safemoneyretirement.com/Beck. Get started today.
Thanks as always for joining us here on the Safe Money Retirement Show. Of course, we are with you each and every week alongside Tim Wood. He's the founder, president, and certified financial fiduciary with Safe Money Retirement. My name's Kevin McAlpin, and of course, Tim and I not only thank you for being here on the show, but of course, we hope you're having a wonderful day. All right, so Tim, we talk a lot about retirement on this show, and maybe some of the myths, maybe some of those retirement rules, and I'm using air quotes when I say retirement rules. And the one that I think a lot of our listeners have heard, you got to have $1 million to retire. However, the big question I had was how many folks actually retire with $1 million or more? Well, the answer blew me away, Tim. It's 3.2%. Now, that means that about 97% of the rest of folks entering retirement are below that number. So the question becomes, are they miserable? Well, not necessarily. Nearly 80% of retirees report that retirement not only meets or even exceeds their expectations. So, Tim, let me ask you, what is the message from Tim Wood for those listening today that think, I don't have $1 million, I never have a chance to retire? How do you respond to that?
Yeah, I say that's absolute garbage. You do not need $1 million. I mean, do I have clients that have $1 million and more? Absolutely. But I'm going to be honest with you, in many cases, not all, but in many cases, mo money is mo problems. Mm-hmm. So not necessarily do you need that. What you need is you need to sit down and make a real plan with what you've got. And let's say you're in your 40s or 50s and you've still got quite a ways. Well, let's sit down and make a plan so we can get you to where you want to be. When do you want to retire? Maybe you don't want to work all the way to 65. Let's sit down and make a plan. But basically, a lot of people do expect to retire with less than $1 million because let's just be realistic, unless you hit that penny stock that's going to be the next Tesla or Apple or something, you know, a lot of us aren't going to have that. So just making sure that your expectations are on track and knowing where you are. And again, most people don't need $1 million. I mean, now if your expenses are $15,000 a month, okay, maybe you do. But then there maybe is something that we can do to start paring back those expenses and get you back more into reality. But yeah, I don't want anyone to ever worry about having $1 million because that's absolutely not necessary. I have people that are comfortably in retirement that have 200, 300, 500, 600. I mean, you can do a lot with that in different plans based on what you need. If you need income, let's take some of that and let's get you the income. If you just want to grow it and take money out when you want it, let's do that. But you definitely don't need $1 million. A lot of financial advisors and planners actually like to flip this question around. And instead of setting a lump sum goal, they actually recommend calculating how much annual income you'll need, including Social Security, pensions, and investments. And that's exactly what we do with every single client in our Fact Finder in that very first meeting you've heard me talk about. We sit down with someone and we figure out, if you haven't already gone on Social Security's website to know what your Social Security is going to be, do it. Mm-hmm. That's part of your homework. We need to know what that's going to be. And then we need to make a plan. When are we going to turn it on? And we also need to know everything else so we can make a plan. So you turn it on when you should turn it on and not turn it on when you don't need it. And then the pension, what are we going to do with that? Do you want to take the pension? And in some cases, I would say probably 10 to 20% of the time, it makes sense to go ahead and take the pension from the pension company that you've got. But a majority of the time, you can get higher payouts with better benefits and not in a pension that possibly could go kaplunked in an outside company. So it's just looking at all of these different things and making sure that you've made a wise plan for it. And again, lastly, 1 million is not necessarily the right target for everyone.
Right.
There are people out there that 350 can be a very viable target and get them to where they need to go. It's just a matter, again, of sitting down and let's figure out where you need to be and what do we need to do and all of that kind of thing. But yeah, don't think that you have to have $1 million. That's absolutely not necessary for most people.
I like that number too, by the way. It says that of those folks that were surveyed, 80% of retirees report retirement meets or exceeds their expectations. Tim, based on your experience, for those 80%, what are they doing, and what can our listeners maybe learn from some of the things that they're experiencing already in retirement?
I would say those are the people that are making a plan with someone. They're sitting down. They're not just winging it. They're not just hoping to God that the market doesn't go down. They're making a plan. Mm-hmm. That, in my opinion, that is what brings happiness in retirement, is having your income planned out and having it to where it can go up in the future by adding some other plans. So again, it's a whole thing that I work with each individual client on, but I think that the happiness in retirement, and there's actually, for those that haven't already seen it, on my website, safemoneyretirement.com, if you go on the media section, there's actually a study there that this huge company, I can't remember the name of them right off the top of my head, did about happiness in retirement and interviewed thousands of retirees. And by far the number one thing was knowing they had enough money that they weren't going to run out of money before they ran out of life. That's it.
Tim, it's funny you bring that up, because I saw a story recently that said more than 70% of folks in a recent survey more afraid of running out of money in retirement than they are of dying. Now think about that really shift in mindset. That's really telling, isn't it?
It is. And that's what I deal with people. Yes, that's why I'm not kidding. I literally have tissues in every office in my office, because people just start sobbing when they start thinking about, oh, what am I going to do? I can't go live with that son-in-law. I can't stand him. He's not good to my daughter. And I've heard everything, as you can imagine. Yeah. It's crazy the kind of stuff you hear when people start opening up. But yeah, making sure that you have got a plan. That's it. That's what brings the peace of mind, knowing that you're not going to run out of money, because that is people's biggest fear. I'm telling you, it is. Being afraid that you're going to run out of money, or that you make a bad decision, or you make a bad investment. And I mean, we see it all the time. People go all in on one thing, and if that one thing doesn't happen, well, here you are, possibly living on Medicaid. Mm-hmm. So, making sure that you've got a plan so you don't have to worry about that. That's where I see the happiest people in retirement, is that check's coming this month, and if I spend it, guess what? It's coming next month. And, and even a lot of people these days are even getting some plans that potentially could kick in 2032 when there's a potential drop in Social Security. So you could put a small amount in right now in a plan and let it continually grow all the way to 2032. And if Social Security does drop, boom, we turn that plan on and you don't notice a change because it just picked up that gap. So again, it's sitting down with each person and coming up with an individual path, an individual way to get them into the end zone.
It's not a cookie cutter situation, folks. Retirement is not a paint by numbers scenario. Each individual situation is completely different from the next person who walks in Tim Wood's doors. And if you'd like that customized plan for your retirement, keep this number handy, folks. Pick up the phone. Give Tim and his team a call right now, 800-913-SAFE. Again, that number, 800-913-7233. That website, once again, is safemoneyretirement.com. Again, it's safemoneyretirement.com. So Halloween is upon us, and Tim, I know there's a lot of folks that can relate to this. Maybe one of their neighbors going a little over the top with the Halloween decor this year. Things like graveyards, fog machines, even haunted houses in our neighborhood. Some people just take it to the absolute extreme. And comedian Eric D'Alessandro, well, he can certainly relate.
When I was a kid, for Halloween, you'd put like a decal of a witch on your window, or you'd use the fun jack-o'-lantern bags for your leaves. Now it seems like every house that I pass, they got Warner Brothers budget. It's like they rented props from the Beetlejuice set. Everyone's complaining about inflation and the price of eggs, but Home Depot can't keep these 40-foot skeletons on the shelves. Where are people even getting this stuff? A vintage hearse? Does Carvana even sell that? And most of the decorations that I see can't fit in people's attics or basements or garages. So they're literally just renting storage units for Frankenstein?
Yeah, it sounds like it, Tim. It really has. Between Halloween and Christmas, you see some elaborate decorations on folks' yards. But the reason I wanted to play that, tying it into what you do every day, going over the top can also happen when it comes to retirement as well, like a plan that might have too many accounts, stocks, maybe too many spreadsheets, just too much information. So when it comes to sitting down with somebody to do that 15, 20, 30-minute conversation, how do you sort of really, sort through all of that clutter that a lot of folks probably have?
So, yeah, I do see that a lot. But as far as the decorations, just to touch on that real quick, yes, I've got people in my neighborhood. There's this one guy. It's got to stand at least 20 feet tall. This big skeleton, and the arms move, and there's the whole graveyard behind him. Yeah, it's a little over the top. But what I do when I sit down with people is we try to pare things down. So what we want to do is we kind of want to pare them down by, is it qualified pre-tax, which means you still owe tax on it? Okay, well, that's one type of account and that's one type of money. Is it qualified after tax, which would be Roth, which means is it still in a qualified plan, but have you already paid taxes on it? Or is it non-qualified, which means it was started with after-tax money? Well, all of the treatment on all three of those are going to be different. So it doesn't really matter how many accounts you've got, the accounts themselves do matter a little bit in how we move the money and that kind of stuff, but that's getting into the weeds. What really matters is the qualification of the money. Do we still have to pay tax on it? Do we only have to pay tax on the gains? Do we not have to pay tax on any of it? Those are the three real qualifications. So when people come in, the first thing that we do, and I do have all the time, I've got the engineers that will come in with the spreadsheets, and they have got, here's my last 12 months, this and this, and and it's crazy. And then I have some people that come in and I ask questions, and they have absolutely no clue about any of it. So basically, it's just getting people to understand that those three qualifications of money are what's really important, and making sure that now, once we know how much is in each one of those qualifications, how do we want to rearrange those buckets? We want to try to get as much in that Roth bucket as we possibly can, because you don't ever have to worry about paying taxes on the growth in the Roth bucket. So if you've got all of your money right now, just for an example, let's say you're at the 22% tax rate and you've got $1 million in an account. Well, you're thinking, I got $1 million for retirement, I'm set. No, you don't. If it's pre-tax and you're in a 22% tax bracket, you've got $780. That's all you got. What can I do? Let's talk about that. Let's figure out a smart way to do it, and to do it smartly so you're not bumping up your overall tax rate. So there's a lot of in the weeds things here that people do go over the top. One thing is I find a lot of people underestimate what they're going to spend on fund money once they retire. So I think that's one of the things that's a really big deal, is making sure that you have got, y'all have heard me talk about over the years, having your paycheck and having your play check. That's a term that Tom Hegney uses, which is one of the guys that I follow. Great economist. If anybody wants one of his books, I got a bunch of them. I'll send you one. Let me know. But having that paycheck that covers what you need, but also having that play check, being able to do those fun things, but to tie back into what you were saying, but let's not go over the top. You know what I mean? You don't necessarily need to go around the world in 80 days. Let's keep things in perspective and do what you want to do and what you can do realistically. Make sure you've got that quality of life that's going to last throughout your whole retirement.
If you'd like more details on how to really, simplify things and sort through all that clutter, schedule time to visit with Tim Wood and the team at Safe Money Retirement. We do have teammates standing by to get you on his calendar right now. 800-913-SAFE. Again, it's 800-913-7233. That website, once again, is safemoneyretirement.com. safemoneyretirement.com. So, Tim, they say time flies when we're having fun. I thought it was another phenomenal show once again. And before we do run out of time, sir, the floor is all yours for the final word.
Awesome. Yeah, great show, Kevin. Hope everyone has a good Halloween week coming up. We did discuss a couple very important things. You don't necessarily have to have $1 million. You do not. That's not a necessity. You need to sit down with someone that can come up with a special plan specifically for you. And also, we want to make sure you don't overdo it like some of our neighbors are with their Halloween decorations. But the big thing that I want to go back to is the very first thing we talked about in this whole show today, and that's Warren Buffett. And what is his number one and number two goal, or his rules, I should say. Rule number one, never lose money. Rule number two, never forget rule number one. Now, these rules are vitally important in retirement. If you're in your 20s, 30s, 40s, if you lose a whole bunch, yes, it's awful, but you've got plenty of time to recover. If you are at or in retirement, it is absolutely critical that we protect what you cannot afford to lose. And that needs to be in a plan that you know is protected, that you know you don't have to worry about any losses no matter what happens in the market, and you've still got a good chance for growth or income or whatever it is you need. That's what you need to really focus on in order to have your own safe money retirement.
The preceding information does not represent tax, legal, or investment advice. Obviously, by contacting us now, you are only taking the first step towards protecting your retirement. No information presented today should be acted upon without meeting with a qualified, licensed insurance professional. It is important that you read all insurance contract disclosures carefully before making a purchase decision. Interest and other guarantees in annuity contracts are subject to the claims-paying ability of the insurance carrier that issued the contract. The tax consequences of annuity income should be considered with the help of a licensed tax professional. Rates and returns mentioned on this program may vary based on state availability and are subject to change without notice.